Welcome to episode 3 of the My Footballing Journey podcast series. This week, we're joined by David Bujara, who works for York City, and we're going to learn all about him, his career so far, and what he hopes to achieve in the game. Let's start at the beginning. How did this all begin for you?
So like a lot of people, I always loved football, but I wasn't necessarily much of a player. I think, that comes out with a lot of us when you listen to these kind of things. Um, and it just happened when I was on the way to work one day. I live up near Newcastle, so I was on the metro reading the paper, and they had a sort of interview slash article about the PFSA. So one of their reporters had been on and done the course. Um, and it just sort of got us thinking, like is scouting, is being involved in football in that sort of capacity something I could do as well? So after sort of like mulling over it all day at work and getting not very much else done, I decided just to reach out to all the Northern League clubs in my area. So I contacted the Northern League secretary, and he passed like an email on to all the clubs, just saying, look, I was looking for some practical experience of scouting. It was something I'm interested in taking up. Would anybody be willing to give us an opportunity? And a club right in Crawcrook Albion basically got back to us that same day. Their club secretary, Stevie Carter, invited us down for their next home game, and that's where it all started, really.
That's really cool. Do you think that there's a tentativeness from some people who are starting out to drop to a certain level and they feel like that they shouldn't go and volunteer their services down in non-league?
Um, a little bit. I mean, I suppose in a way I think to myself, maybe I was reaching a little bit too low because at that level it was hard to say I went in and did the scout and I thought of scouting as next opposition. So I went in and did next opposition, which I suppose is needed. But if you were looking at players in that area, you'll find that a lot of managers, a lot of people at these clubs, they know all the players in the local area anyway, because they've been around local non-league for such a long time. So you don't necessarily have to do yourself not a disservice, but
Mm.
there are clubs further up the levels that are looking for people to come in. It might be in the academy. It could be just doing something grassroots. It might be non-league in your local area, but you don't necessarily have to hit the very lower ends of semi-professional football.
Yeah.
You can maybe aim that a little bit higher because at the end of the day, the worst thing they could say is no, thank you. It's no sort of big deal then.
At what point for you from there did you kind of set yourself a goal to say, this is actually more of a career type thing than something I do on a weekend?
I suppose from the start, I sort of hoped that I would be able to progress, but I always just had this idea on my head because I wasn't from a footballing background that there would be sort of almost like a glass ceiling, maybe that you wouldn't be able to break through. I mean, even in my role now with York, I'm still only part-time. It's not I've not been able to after 8 year break into a full-time football role. For whatever reason, but I don't think that maybe glass ceiling is there as much now because you hear of so many people from a non-footballing background getting to even the very, very top of the game with your likes of your Man Cities and that kind of thing. So it's sort of opening up to everyone at the minute.
Yeah, it's interesting. Why do you think that change is coming around? I mean, do you think that's coming from, digitization and the influence of data and younger people and the requirements of those skills, or do you think there's anything else at play?
I think people that run the clubs as times change, the people that are the decision makers, they're that sort of next generation, aren't they? So you've gone from maybe a chief scout at one time being an ex-player or or that kind of thing, who then maybe would rely on his contacts that would end up being more ex-players and that kind of thing to maybe do a bit of scouting, to now it is people that maybe had played lower down or played at university that have degrees and that have that sort of experience, non-footballing experience that now the football world sees as being useful or something that can those skills transfer into football. And because there's that new mindset and that different mindset, they're happy to like say to somebody, right, you might not have been a former player, you might not have been in an academy, but you've shown the desire and understanding and you've sort of prepared yourself with a skill set to be useful to what I want to do as a chief scout, what we want to do as a club. So
Mm.
maybe just a sort of the willingness is there more now to look outside of that sort of traditional sphere of football to give other people an opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. Do you have an ultimate kind of end goal for yourself? I mean, obviously you touched on there kind of the part-time to full-time journey
Mhm.
and kind of winding road and frustrating journey that can be. Are there any peaks that you're kind of setting yourself to climb?
Yeah, I suppose the next one will be hopefully at some point to go full time. Um, that's sort of a major hurdle, isn't it? I think the things that I've seen that I've mentioned before on previous things like this and the others that you've interviewed is that you get that step from maybe taking up a role. So you're finding a voluntary role, then you're taking that step from voluntary to some sort of payment and then you maybe if it's mileage or whatever, and then the next step is to go a proper like I would class myself a proper part-time role,
Hmm.
and then the next one is full-time.
Mm.
Um, and from there, I suppose it's. I mean, I love my job at the minute. I really enjoy working closely with the group of scouts we've got with Stocky and Matt in the recruitment department at York. I'd love to think that I could progress with them. Um, but you just never know what's around the corner, do you? I mean, if I mean, I'm a Middlesbrough fan, so if like Borough phoned us up and said, "Oh, David, do you fancy being our new chief scout?" I'd be stupid not to go. Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, go on then, you know. But I think my next sort of major, fingers crossed, sort of step is going full time at some point. That's got to be the next one because I've hit that thing of be a scout, be involved. I worked my way up to doing work for Brentford, which is high up on there, and then I dropped back down to Morpeth, because it was a chief, sort of like a chief scout, a lead scout role, and
Mm.
then it's working your way back up again, isn't it? So
Yeah,
it's
and it's
just
making those
peaks and
decisions, isn't
troughs.
it, between what something says it is and then what something actually is. Because, I know people who, are in roles that sound great on the
Yeah.
face of it, but then actually when you talk to them, it isn't what it says on the tin. And I think there's a lot of fancy work that goes on with titles on LinkedIn as well at times.
Yeah, social media, I think just in general can be very, oh, look at my perfect life, isn't it all wonderful? And I mean, I've done that before.
Mm.
Um, you're very willing, and everyone will know that listens to this. Like there'll be Twitter accounts out there that go, oh, I spotted him when he was 13 years old playing in so and so league and knew he'd be right at the top. That, but then they never tell you about the
Yeah.
20 that they saw that they thought were going to be great that have gone nowhere. Um, I had a bit of a blog at one point. It's now in the dustbin of history. But I was quite happy to say, yeah, this is a player that I got right. I saw him and I thought he was great and he's done all right. But I tell you, there was plenty of times that I thought he's a world beater and now they're nowhere, So
Yeah. I think
yeah,
that's something that you have to get over quite quickly when you move into this world, isn't it? That we're not computers and we're not going to get everything right. And there are so many famous examples of where it does go wrong. I think it's about averages, isn't it? And trying to come out
mm,
in the net positive, I suppose.
yeah, definitely. It's and the other side is even if you really love a player and you would be right, does that player necessarily is that player, sorry, necessarily the right player for your team?
Yeah.
Because there'll be a million players out there that are great players, but you look at them and think, what we do as a side
Hmm.
wouldn't, yeah, they would be great, but then we might have to carry them. They might do no defensive
Yeah.
work, and you're in a side that demands hard work and constant sort of part of that team setup. And they might be like that player that's a little bit outside of the box, but you would have to carry them defensively. So, there's all that kind of thing as well. It's not just a matter of going, he's great, he's great, he's great. He would be great for our team and what we need.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I always talk to the members on the Patreon page. Some people are in the academy side of things, some people are trying to work their way into the first team side of things. And I always say that there's a big difference between, the academy talent identification, talent, and then at the senior level, it's not talent ID. They're all talented. Anyone who's playing professional football is bloody good at football at the
Yeah.
end of the day. It's actually matching key performance indicators to a certain style or to a certain system, which is a very different role in a way. And I think at times that's why the jump between academy and senior can be quite difficult because I think they are very different jobs. But yeah, 100% agree with you there. Now, if you're watching on YouTube and you want access to the full episode here, you want to check out our Patreon page. For £5 a month, you'll have access to exclusive content, one-to-one guidance on your reports and career steps, as well as some more in-depth analysis. The community is growing every day, and there is no better time to come and get involved.